Financial Times is reporting that Argentina and Brazil might be working towards a common currency. Reuters is throwing a little cold water on top of that, but it's a good time to talk about common currency goals and the future of cryptocurrencies nonetheless. According to the Financial Times article, Argentina and Brazil are working this week in Buenos Aires at a summit talking about maybe uniting their currencies in the same way that the EU did about 30 years ago. There's a few other currency unions within the global economy. And, that kind of works sometimes, but not always that great. That being said, we do have this new innovation called cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin, and that is adding a little bit of pressure to this whole conversation. We talk about CBDCs quite a bit on this show, so maybe we can even get some thoughts on that. Before we go over to that, I want to pull up a tweet from Brian Armstrong talking about this new report from the Financial Times, saying that, maybe Bitcoin could be a good option for these two, though it's unlikely to occur. Zach, I want to throw the story over to you. Of course, we have that new reporting from Reuters this morning, which again throws a little cold water on the initial reporting from the Financial Times. But common currencies are obviously very interesting for cryptocurrency adoption because it might bring in the doors for Bitcoin or something else to be used on a global level.
Yeah, I think you're right. In the wake of El Salvador, right, making Bitcoin legal tender, there was a lot of conversation about who might be next. That timing didn't work out especially well for El Salvador, and I'd imagine that interest in pursuing Bitcoin as legal tender in a group of countries or in individual countries, I'd assume that a lot of the momentum around that has waned. But yeah, that's the point of what Bitcoin is, right? This is stateless money. It doesn't require a central bank to issue this currency. It doesn't require military force to enforce its value, right? These are things that are algorithmically secured and exist as borderless, non-state money. So the idea that these could be collectively embraced at the country level is something that I think would potentially make sense. There's obviously a ton of technical, cultural hurdles toward doing that in terms of getting these communities up to speed and using that. I will say Argentina and a little bit of Brazil, they've been pretty quick to adopt cryptocurrencies. Obviously, with like the specter of hyperinflation in Argentina, stablecoins play perhaps a more significant role in that country's economy than they would in other Western economies. So the fact that this is being floated as an idea among the sort of the crypto chattering class is plausible. I don't think that's likely going to happen, or maybe it isn't the wise long-term bet. Maybe these countries want to retain some national control over what this reportedly shared currency could look like. But all that is obviously TBD. And I think, the Reuters report says, hey, more bilateral economic agreement, maybe not so much the shared currency. So I think there's still some details to be worked out there for sure. Jen, I saw your hand go up, though. I'm going to toss it your way.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I read this article and I thought, wow, that's great that the governments are trying to work together to kind of battle some of these fiscal issues across the board in Latin America. But then I looked to the euro, and the euro took 35 years to develop. And I think that's a little slow if we're trying to come up with a solution that is affecting the people of your country. So Argentina's annual inflation is approaching 100%. I feel like every time we talk about inflation in Argentina, the number just keeps getting higher and higher. And I just think that crypto is the solution here. If it's going to take decades to come up with a not a universal currency, but with a currency that all these countries can use, I just think that it's not ideal. We already see Latin American countries, the citizens of these countries adopting crypto. I immediately think of Lemon Cash, the exchange in Argentina that launched that Visa card that gives people 2% back in Bitcoin. That when it launched was a huge success with citizens. And so I think that crypto is the answer. I don't know that these guys are going to be able to get this together fast enough to actually offer a real solution. Wendy?
Maybe it'll be Cardano. Something built on Cardano. You don't know.
I don't know that
They've
it
got
will
stable.
be, Wendy.
You know what? They've got stable coins. They've got privacy coins now. Come on. We can't
Even
rule
a
it out.
Husky coin, dog
Even a
knockoff
Husky
of
coin.
Dogecoin for Cardano. They got it all.
No, come on. No, in all seriousness, I think that they'll probably go the route that the president of El Salvador did. Why wouldn't they? They've seen pretty decent success over there considering. So why wouldn't they do that? I think it's an interesting idea to explore, and I'm excited to see some of these countries that have experienced a lot of hardships kind of look towards crypto or Bitcoin or whatever that solution may be to kind of really help their people. Because at the same time, when we look at everybody used to run to the United States for help way back in the day, but now the United States is such a big mess, especially with inflation and everything we're going on in our own economy. We're not really viable enough to help other places like we used to be. So that's my opinion on that. Zach, I think I saw your hand.
No, I didn't really have anything. I think it was
No?
Will was probably going to lend some
Will.
insight to the conversation. Will, you got anything?
That's what I try to do on the show. Hopefully I do fulfill that. The one thing I want to think about with this headline is just like how much we focus on Bitcoin and crypto, and that might seem like just something that's out there to a lot of people who are new to the space. It's just very in the ether. We don't really understand why. But then you see a headline like this and you say, oh, there's actually large countries that have huge populations they have to steward, large resources, and the denominator for everything they do is a currency. So currencies do matter a lot, and that's what Bitcoin and all these other currencies are grappling with, is the future of who's going to use what money. And to Brian Armstrong's tweet, like, this is very unlikely that something like this is going to happen, right? El Salvador was sort of a pipe dream that came true somehow. It's still sort of an odd story that people are really grappling with, really trying to understand. That being said, these things aren't going away anytime soon. And every time we have a CBDC story, or anytime we have a Bitcoin adoption story, or a story like this between two countries trying to figure out a new mutual currency, then you can only think that this space is only becoming more important.